So, lo and behold, one of the biggest things I think Detroit Red Wings fans have been paying attention to is the health status of one Patrick Kane, whose presence on the Red Wings, I'll admit, it's missed. Like, a lot of folks do miss him. I have him on my IR on fantasy hockey, so of course I want to see Patty Kane, who is at a point per game right now, come back. But I will say, the Red Wings have been finding ways to win without Patty Kane. They're still one of the top teams in the National Hockey League at the time of recording this audio, so getting this guy back would just be a boost, wouldn't it be? And with some decisions like sending Watson down or whatever, it does potentially open the door for Patty Kane to return, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Maybe by the time this video is public on YouTube, Kane is already back in the lineup and activated. Who really knows? It's possible. But this video isn't necessarily about Patty Kane and what he's doing right now, but it's about what Patty Kane did a decade ago. A decade ago? Almost 2 decades ago. Wow, he's old. But Patrick Kane, of course, before he was a Detroit Red Wings superstar, he was a Chicago Blackhawks legend. And everybody probably knows the story of Patrick Kane, first overall in 2007, was a stud with the London Knights, almost at, he was over 2 points a game. Was he at 3 points a game? No, he was almost at 2.5, but so good in the OHL, went first overall despite not really being all too big, and then Patty Kane dominated the NHL with the Chicago Blackhawks for years and years to come, capping himself off with a 100-point season in 15-16, which won him the heart as the NHL's most valuable player, and also got him the Ted Lindsay Award. So yeah, Patty Kane is pretty good, one of the best players of the 2010s, bar none. But now there's a new superstar in Chicago, and he's a guy who's actually had himself a pretty good start to the season. We gotta give him a big shout out here. It's the mod to our live stream here on YouTube, the one and only North Van Zone, Connor Bedard. Yes, I'm fairly certain he's a moderator on our YouTube channel stream, but either way, Connor Bedard, 20 years old, first overall by Chicago in 2023, so 16 years after Patty Kane was selected number 1 by the Hawks. Connor Bedard has had some pretty difficult times in the NHL so far. Back-to-back 60-point seasons, with the most recent one being in more games played, kind of got a lot of people wondering, like, hey, Bedard was supposed to be this generational talent. He was mentioned in the same vein as Crosby, McDavid, etc. Is he really that good? Or is his team just that bad? Because Chicago, these 2 years, I don't know if you noticed, but they are really bad teams. So a lot of folks would immediately go out there and conclude that Connor Bedard is just a product of circumstance. Hey, he's a good player, he's talented, but he's surrounded by nobody. I mean, look at the guys that he was going out there and trying to produce offense alongside of last year. Toivo Teravainen had 58 points, Nick Foligno was there, Mikheyev was a top 6 forward. Pretty difficult times in Chicago, right? This year, though, Connor Bedard is at 16 points in 13 games. He has finally cracked the point-per-game mark, and he's on pace for 100 points, which would roughly put him back into that borderline generational conversation if he's able to do that this year and then continue to do that in all the subsequent years, right? But when you compare Connor Bedard to the other first overall pick that Chicago has had the past little while, things get really interesting. Because I saw this post made on BetAlytics' Twitter account. Patrick Kane versus Connor Bedard's career stats through their first 161 career NHL games. In his first 161, Patty Kane had 46 goals, 95 assists, and 141 points, plus 8 game-winning goals. Meanwhile, Connor Bedard, in his first 161 career games, he had 51 goals, 91 assists, and 142 points, including 8 game-winning goals. Look at that. When you look at the numbers side by side, you can literally see that Connor Bedard's opening 160-ish NHL games were right up in there with the same as what Patty Kane was able to do. Kane had himself 72 and 82 the first year, 70 and 80 the next year, and then 88 and 82 the year after that. He also ended up scoring the Stanley Cup winning goal, posting up 28 points in 22 games that playoff run. Quite remarkable, if you ask me. But still, Patty Kane was under a point per game for the first 2 seasons he had in the league, only by 10 points. He had 70 back-to-back. That's pretty good. But Connor Bedard, he was at 61 and 68, 67 and 82, so kind of a similar gap there. And now he's over a point per game. Roughly around the same time that Patty Kane started to become over a point per game for Chicago back in 2010. So when you look at the numbers side by side, they are almost dead set down the middle. It's almost like first overall picks actually do have talent. Who would have known? And unfortunately, one of the top replies goes out there and says, okay, so Bedard is an above average player, not a generational talent. Checkmark. Like, okay, Mike, you can chill with the sarcasm there. We're going to pretend like a guy who had 141 points in his first 161 career games is an above average player. Like, no, Patty Kane is a Ted Lindsay and Hart winner. He is a Conn Smythe winner and a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He is an NHL legend. Above average player, my behind. Now, sure, if Connor Bedard ends up having the same career that Patty Kane ends up having, I don't think anybody's going to be too disappointed and say that that's a bad career. Maybe it's not in the same echelon of what we thought a McDavid or a Crosby level amount of hype would imply for a first overall pick, but it's still fine. But the thing is, Patty Kane didn't break 100 points in the NHL till 2015-16. Granted, all these years in the past, league scoring was kind of down. You wouldn't really see too many guys get 100 points in general, so I can understand why you can bring that argument up. I mean, in this season, 15-16, Patty Kane was the only guy to have 100 points that year. The next best guy had 89. So the league was different back when Patty Kane was playing and scoring. He then had 110 points in 2018-19. Wasn't number one, though. That was Connor McDavid really breaking out and totally taking over alongside of Nikita Kucherov as well. I mean, this season had 6 100-point scorers, so you're already seeing the change in NHL productivity. And then there were 2 guys at 99, a guy at 98. It was a really close year. Connor Bedard is stepping into an era where 100-point scorers are a lot more common nowadays. So if he continues on this pace and gets 101 points, and he continues to get better and the Blackhawks progress, I don't think it's unrealistic to see Bedard continuously break 100 from here on out, considering the status of the league and considering his growth. So this entire Bedard versus Patty Kane thing, saying that one is an above-average player and the other is not a generational talent, I do kind of question if that's the reality here. But ultimately, this is good news for Connor Bedard, and a very interesting update as to how he relates to one of the best Blackhawks legends of all time. And I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How does that make you feel? What is your response to these 2 guys being so similar in numbers? They're separated by 1 point in the same amount of games played. But Bedard's already way over a point per game and on pace for 100. This could be the year where he starts to widen that gap if everything continues to go right. He technically already outproduced Patty Kane. Kane got 141, Bedard had 142. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How does this conversation tickle your fancy, and do you think it's actually possible that Bedard, that is, regains that generational label? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.